Loading.
This meeting is being live streamed. Okay, got it. So that means we're up then.
Check the feed.
Yeah, I'm checking. Yeah, Zoom, YouTube. I got it. Meeting is being live streamed. Okay, got it. Now you got to mute that though.
Mute.
So that means we're up then.
Mute what?
Check the feed. I can hear myself on your video.
Go ahead.
Are we good? I got it. Meeting is being live streamed. Okay. Now you got to mute that though. You're listening to the stream, right? Yeah.
How are we doing?
I think we're okay now.
How's that?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, I just had to mute my YouTube file.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm going to start recording.
Yeah, start recording the thing. Yeah, we're going to go in a minute. Oh, we got a couple of people already watching on the YouTube. Excellent. Excellent. All right. I'm good whenever you are, buddy. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Chalk Talk podcast. I'm your host, Ken Doolittle, joined, as always, by my co-host, resident, used to be, probably still is, Packers fan, going up against my Dallas Cowboys this weekend. Resident hat wearer, resident poster user in the background, but not the fireworks poster from last season, Michael Burke. Buddy, it's been a year since we have done this. How have you been?
I mean, still in the same apartment, just a little bit different decorations going on in the place, but looking forward to being back and getting everybody some good tips on the upcoming NFL playoffs.
Yeah, buddy, I'm ready too. You know, it's good to be back here. The last episode we did was championship weekend, I think, last year. We went over, a lot of games last year. Probably a lot of stuff we could have done in the offseason. But last time we did this podcast, Bill Belichick was still an NFL coach. And today, he is not an NFL coach. And tomorrow he may be again an NFL coach, but I'll reserve my thoughts on that for a later segment today. But welcome back, everybody. Thank you. It's so good to be talking to everybody again. We're ready to share some picks today. We got some fun segments. We're going to go over a lot of NFL playoffs. We're going to talk a little bit of hoops, but mainly NFL today. We got some bets for you, some best bets. Maybe Burke's bet of the year, lock of the year on January 11th. That'd be later than he had it last year.
That's been bad in the past. We're trying not to repeat certain doom.
And most importantly, we got some drinks for you tonight. What do you got there, buddy? I'm drinking these White Claw Surges.
And I've got some Surfside vodka lemonades.
All right, excellent. Well, hopefully everybody out there has a good drink in hand to enjoy this wonderful Thursday night, or Friday Eve, as I like to call it. Cheers to you, buddy. Thanks for coming back. Good to have everybody here. Why don't we go ahead and get started, right? So we are a gambling podcast, and I have led today's agenda with a segment called Gambling is Dead, but We Are Alive. And unfortunately, since we've last spoke and since we've started this podcast, I feel that the value of a lot of bets and a lot of gambling in general has either decreased or just totally went away. And Bart, I don't know if you feel the same, and I'm going to give you the spotlight in a second here. But specifically, and I love that people are betting now, and I love that apps exist and everybody can bet on. And, you and I remember the dark ages of going on like Bovada.lv. We had to, pay our dues, and we had to pay $7 to get a physical check mailed to us if we ever won. And it would take 3 weeks to get to us, and you couldn't bet whatever you wanted. And now you could do it from the pocket of your phone, going to bed at night. You wake up, maybe you make $10. Great. The odds have decreased so significantly, and I feel that the value is gone, and this is all now for pure entertainment for me. What do you think?
I mean, I am still a fan of being able to not have to call my bank to secure funding through an overseas account. I was a MyBookie guy when I first started gambling, and that was an absolute nightmare to deal with. I mean, in the rare situations where I actually did win money, Didn't see it, like you said, for months at a time, if at all. But definitely the ease of access and making it legal in the United States has definitely increased the popularity across the board, but still with that comes a lot of people who think they know what they're doing, so to speak.
Yeah. So like, look, man, the lines are just better now, right? Number one, lines are really sharp. So when you're betting things like the NFL, it's just too sharp. The lines have moved too much and they're too accurate because too many people are betting on it. If you're betting, I know you're a big college football and college basketball bettor. College football is pretty sharp at this point, right? And it's pretty hard to get an edge. College basketball, I think, is a little easier, and maybe that's something I want to dive into this year. And not, again, if you're betting Duke, North Carolina, Michigan, those teams, that's hard. But if you're betting like Duquesne lines, I think that's a little easier just because those markets aren't as sharp. So what happens is when more people bet on these lines, the sports books set a line, right? And it doesn't even have to be a good line. So the opening line can be whatever you want. And then the bettors decide, well, is that line right or wrong, right? So if you have a favorite that's laying 7 points, if that's too many points, the sharps are going to figure that out real quick, right? And that line's going to go down 6-5-4, whatever. So I think that the value is in these like more obscure markets, right? And I always think back to COVID. When COVID hit and the world shut down and there were no sports to bet on, there was virtual camel racing that people were betting on, right? And that was the only thing that you could do. And yet it wasn't mainstream enough. And I still think that those lines were good. So the whole point of this little rant that I'm going on to get us back in the scene here today is this is supposed to be fun. This is going to be fun. We're obviously going to get some wrong, right? The best bettors in the world are 52.4%, okay, on minus 110 VIGs. That's impressive if you can get 52% wins. But at the same time, if we're telling you to take the Rams plus 3.5 just because we want Matt Stafford to kick Jared Goff's ass in Detroit, that's purely an entertainment bet, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with things. I think that's where you're at with things. We're going to have some fun through these NFL playoffs, and we're going to see if we can make some money. And we'd love for you guys to group bet with us, right?
And I think just to add on to that too, with the sharpness of how lines are, there's so much accessibility to analytics in numbers, and there's a lot of different software that's predicting these games and these outcomes that they're almost so accurate with the amount of data that's available to all of us that Vegas is really leaning on those from the start. So there's really not much sway that people can do anymore like they were in the past. So those lines, barring like ridiculous injury, changes in weather, etc., they're not really moving much from the initial release. So it's kind of much harder to get an edge, but hopefully people who listen to us and our minimal amounts of expertise in reading games and trying to predict stuff, maybe you'll just take a little bit of advice here and there and possibly come out with a profit in your pocket.
Yeah, that's what I think too, right? Like there's a couple different tiers of gamblers, and maybe next time we do like a gambling education segment. I think that would be useful to everybody, myself and yourself included. But like there's just so much information out there. And excuse me, we were texting with one of our buddies today, and he sent us an article about, Jalen Hurts hadn't thrown a football since last week. Okay. And so he's trying to use that as an argument to bet the Bucks on Monday night. But if he's seeing that, just a normal dude, the people betting tens of thousands of dollars on this game have already seen that. And if it was relevant, the line would have moved significantly. So you're not going to see an article on ESPN and get an edge that way, right? Because if you're seeing something, the sharps with millions of dollars have seen that days ago and they've already bet it. So there's no edge to be had there at all. So I just want to leave it at that. We're here to have some fun. We're going to make some money for you. I promise you we're going to make some money in the playoffs. But before we get into the playoffs, let's talk about the regular season of NFL. Today is a jam-packed NFL day. We have had a hell of a season. So as you know, and as all the viewers know, the last team that I pitched to you guys, unfortunately last year, the Bills came up short for us. We're still riding our Rams high from 2 years ago, but we're riding the Cowboys this year. And we got the Cowboys at 15-1. How are you feeling about that? Because I'm feeling pretty good right now.
I mean, I'm at a complete conflict of interest right now with my Packers being a little bit ahead of schedule.
Well, you got to direct it.
Drawing them in the first round in Dallas, but track record over the last couple of playoff appearances between these two teams, Green Bay has come out on top more times than not, even when they haven't been the favorites. So again, may look to hedge in this situation. Also want to leave my heart out of the situation. Never a good thing to put your heart into it. It can only lead to disaster. But
You should have led with that. Never bet with your heart.
But it's gonna be an exciting game, I think. And I have a pick.
We're gonna get to the picks
we'll
later.
Get to it later.
Don't spoil it now. But let's talk about some stats from the NFL regular season. I don't know if you've seen all these or not yet, but I'm gonna go over a couple wild stats that I found from this season and see what we have to say about them. All right. So number one, Dolphins, pretty good team by all account, right? Dolphins make the playoffs, almost won the division. Probably were the favorites to win. They scored 70 points. Guess who's beaten more teams that are over 500 than the Dolphins this year? The New England Patriots have beaten 2 teams that are over 500 this year, and the Dolphins have beaten 1.
Incredible.
How about that? The New England Patriots, who I think have, 4 total wins, right? An abomination. Mac Jones, who's going to be working at an Arby's next year, has 2 wins of teams over 500. And Tua, who was in the MVP race a month ago, has 1 win over a team over 500. 1 win.
It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking.
I saw that the other day and I could not believe it. I could not believe that stat. That's probably the wildest thing. All right, number 2. A lot of talk about Travis Kelce this year, not because of him, but maybe because of his social life. And hey, good for him, by the way. Good for Travis Kelce. Good for Taylor Swift, right? Don't get NFL fans talking shit about Taylor Swift out here. We love Taylor Swift. We love Travis Kelce. But he has gone under his catch prop in every week since before Thanksgiving, where he topped it by 1. Okay. His prop has been between 5.5 and 6.5 every week. Thanksgiving week, it was 6.5 and he got 7 catches. Before that, he had gone under every single week since October 22nd. So Travis Kelce has 2 overs in the past 3 months. How are we feeling about that?
I mean, God bless those who took him in fantasy in one of those really early rounds. I'm sure it didn't work out well for you guys in your playoff, in your fantasy leagues. So tough sledding. I know he's getting up there in age, and unfortunately, literally the Kansas City Chiefs could have probably picked 3 random people out of the stands who would have been better options at wide receiver than what they put out on the field this year.
Mahomes is definitely super fed up. I know we're going to talk about the Chiefs when we get to that Chiefs-Dolphins game, but he feels like he's ready to explode every week. Is Travis Kelce still the number 1 tight end in fantasy next year?
I don't think so.
Because look, for like a decade, man, he's been consensus number 1 tight end 1 off the board, right? Since Gronk retired, really.
Well,
who we taking? Is it Laporta?
Even before Gronk retired, I think Kelce had surpassed him in fantasy production. Obviously, Gronk was battling injuries towards the back end of his
they're the same age, right? Isn't that crazy? Yeah,
close.
They are.
They're close, if not the same.
They're the same age. They're the exact same age.
But yeah, I would have to say Laporta's going to be up there. Who else do we got? Waller.
I mean, you got Laporta. You get Hawkinson if he gets a real quarterback, right?
Yeah. Waller with the Giants isn't going to do anything anymore.
Yeah, it's weird that Kelce might not be the number 1 tight end.
You got a couple young guys in Buffalo and Green Bay that have been productive rookies. So you never know. But I think Laporta, based on just what he did this year, even he was a rookie too. Him and Gibbs, I don't think we've ever seen a rookie tandem like that be as productive scoring touchdowns in a very long time, if ever. But I think Laporta has to go number 1, but he's not going first 2 rounds.
No, yeah, it's going to be an interesting draft to see where that first tight end comes off the board, because historically Kelce's been, 8 to 10 range. All right, so that's our tight end conversation. How about our quarterback conversation? I didn't fact check the number, but it's over 60. Over 60 quarterbacks, and I think it's 66, started a game this year.
It's over 2 a team.
2 a team, and that includes teams that have only started 1 quarterback all year, such as the Cowboys, the Chiefs, right? I think the Dolphins, I think 2 has started every game. So a lot of teams have started 1.
Yep.
Which means a lot of teams have started 3. And it means some teams, like the Cleveland Browns, have started 4, and they've actually started 5 now that week 18 is in the books.
Yep.
That's crazy to me. 66 quarterbacks.
Incredible. I didn't
And
even
we've got Joe Flacco in the playoffs in 2024. I saw a thing today, a graphic. The most playoff wins of all quarterbacks remaining is Pat Mahomes. He's got 11. You know who's second? Joe Flacco with
Joe
10.
Flacco. Elite Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco, pass interference king, Joe Flacco, 10 playoff wins. He's second. And then I think third was Goff, maybe with 3. Jalen Hurts only has 2, couple, I don't know. But yeah, Mahomes has 11. Flacco has 10. And the next guy has 3, which is insane. So maybe we should be riding the Browns. All right, let's talk touchdowns, what we really care about here. Guys that went, talking about guys who went early in fantasy drafts, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, Amari Cooper. You know who had as many touchdowns as them? Deron Bland, the cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys. He plays defense. He had as many touchdowns as Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, and Amari Cooper. And like 30 other dudes, but those were the biggest names on the list. He had more touchdowns than Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams, Aaron Jones, Terry McLaurin, Bijan Robinson, and Jalen Waddle.
It's a lot of big names in that list you just named.
This dude plays defense. We should, like, it's just been a wild year, right? And I know some of those guys got hurt, but some of them didn't.
If Bland is scoring all these touchdowns from the defensive side of the ball, why are teams throwing at him? Why are they giving him a chance?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's crazy, right? Like whenever I forget who they were playing the week that he set the record when he had 4 straight weeks of pick sixes or 4 in a row, right?
Was that Thanksgiving? Did he do it on Thanksgiving?
It might have been things. He had one on Thanksgiving. I know he did. But I think I texted you guys and I'm like, his odds are 4-1 today to get pick 6. That's absurd. It should never be 4-1. And then he did it. So first of all, props to that dude for having as many touchdowns as he had. I can't imagine. I think, what did he have? 5 or 6 this season. For reference, Deion Sanders had 9 in his whole career. And we think of Deion Sanders as one of the most exciting, electric, best like defensive players ever, right? Showtime. But he had 5 or 6 this year and more touchdowns than all those studs individually. That leads to my next point as why Dallas scored so many points. So Dallas scored the most points in the league this year. They scored 509 total points this season. And that makes sense. They scored a ton of points every week. They were in the 30s. They were in the 40s a couple times.
They scored a ton of points on defense. That helps too.
They scored a ton of points on defense, a ton of points on offense, 509. So we think, this year, high flying offense, right? A lot of good. Well, actually, they would have been 3rd in 2018. They would have been 2nd in 2019, tied for 1st in 2020, 3rd in 2021, and 1st in 2022. So let's go back to 2018. You remember that year with the Monday Night Football Chiefs-Rams phenomenon points bonanza? It was
that
what, 55, 58
game, something ridiculous.
51-48.
I remember that game.
The Chiefs that season, do you know how many points they had that season? I don't know if you've seen this already. If you have, don't tell me. The Cowboys scored 509 this year. How many points do you think the Chiefs scored that year?
With a 50-point game? Probably in the 4s.
565.
Oh, I was off.
The Rams scored 527, and the Saints scored 504.
Jesus.
In 2019, the Ravens scored 531, and in 2021, Dallas scored 531, and Tampa Bay scored 511. So my point being, we think of these high-flying offenses and these like crazy scoring games. I mean, the Dolphins scored 70 this year. We had another team score 63. The Raiders scored 63. Somebody scored 50. Who scored 56? Somebody just scored 50. The Ravens. They beat the Dolphins by scoring 56 points.
Yep.
And Dallas scored 49 a couple times. This is not anything close to what we saw 4 or 5 years ago. I don't think offenses are that prominent as they were 5 years ago. You agree?
Well, another thing, going back to what we discussed earlier with 66 quarterbacks starting in the league this year.
Wow.
Sure. Around 2018, you had Brady, you had Rodgers, you had Breeze, Rivers.
But Dallas only started 1.
Okay.
And they were still 50 points short of that.
I'm just saying from a wider spectrum across the board.
Sure.
Those teams probably only started 1 as well. And those quarterbacks are all going to go in the Hall of Fame. So it's very convenient that you have a Hall of Fame quarterback leading your offense as opposed to not.
Is Jared Goff going in the Hall of Fame? Because he scored 527 on the Rams in 2018.
He wins a Super Bowl with Detroit. That gives him 2 in his career. Put him in Canton.
It does not give him 2 in his career. Jared Goff has not won a Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Never mind.
He has been to a Super Bowl.
He lost to the Chiefs.
No, he lost to the Patriots 10 to 3 or 13 to 3 was that
It was a
game.
low scoring game. Yep.
I should also point
mixing
out
it.
in that 2018 season where the Chiefs had 565 and the Rams had 527, 16 games. Now we're playing 17, right?
Yep.
So those offenses were insane. And that's the only reason I bring that up is those weeks were wild. Offenses that were not insane this year, the Giants. The Giants went 3 straight weeks without scoring an offensive touchdown.
Impressive.
3 weeks, weeks
Impressive.
4, 5, 6, all the way back in October. They did not score a single offensive touchdown, which I think is insane. The Panthers did not lead any game ever in the fourth quarter. Not one game did they have a lead in the fourth quarter, and they won twice. That's incredible.
Nuts.
They won 2 games on game-winning field goals. They did not have a lead the whole freaking season, and they won 2 games.
They're gonna get the number 1 pick now. So,
but they're not. The Bears have their pick.
that's right, because of the DJ Moore trade.
That's right. Yeah. So
Well,
the Panthers are a disaster. The Giants might be a disaster. Look, Danny DeVito, he was a fine story. He sucks as a quarterback. All right. They cannot play him. Tyrod is actually pretty good. But they got Danny Dimes under contract for, a Pat Mahomesian contract there. So that might have been a miscue by them, but whatever. It's also worth noting, I know we're talking NFL. I got to talk a little hoops. Steph Curry also had 2 games in the past 3 weeks where he's made 0 threes. That hasn't happened in like his whole career. So maybe sports are just wild now. I don't know. We see these wild stats all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, Belichick's gone. Saban's gone.
Pete Carroll's gone. I think 3 really good coaches in the past 2 days.
Ron Rivera's gone.
Well, I don't know if he was a good coach.
Yeah.
Riverboat Ron, or as I call him, Paddle Boat Ron, because he's unable to do literally anything. I'm still fuming at him for that. I don't even know what week it was, but it was a week a long time ago. They were playing the Eagles. They scored a touchdown with no time remaining to go down 1, and he kicked an extra point in Philadelphia. Don't you go for 2? How could you not go for 2? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. That's in the past. What's not in the past is Super Wild Card Weekend. Number 1, I hate that it's called Super Wild Card Weekend. It needs to go back to just Wild Card Weekend. Number 2, why the fuck is a game on Peacock and not on national television? That's insane. And it's Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes is on Peacock, dude. He's not on TV.
At least they're putting the Dolphins on Peacock though, so they got half of it correct.
they got it half right. And number 3, every time the Texans make the playoff, they're just going to be the first Saturday afternoon game, right? They can never escape that game.
Automatic.
So not to, to go back to like our earlier around the horn days, the first thing I do when the playoffs come out is look at the schedule. And I see, what game is where. I love that stuff, like predicting who's going to be the Monday night game, who's going to be whatever. They say that they have to put a 4-5 matchup in the Monday night game because then all the other matchups for the following week. So by the time Sunday is done, you will know exactly who you're playing. Because if they put like a 3-6 on Monday night.
Or just do 3 games Saturday and 3 games Sunday.
Well, I agree. That would be better. I would love a full slate Saturday, a full slate
And then
Sunday.
based on how you sequence the Saturday games, that can kind of dictate which bye teams play the Saturday and the Sunday. So everybody's like on a week rest.
Yeah, I agree. And you do it that way. And now the Monday teams get screwed because they'll play probably the 1 seed on a Sunday. So they'll get 6 days of rest against the 1 seed.
And have to travel, of course.
And the 1 day, and they'll have to travel. And the 1 seed will have 2 weeks of rest.
Yep.
So next week, we're going to look hard at these 1 seeds and see who they're playing. But let's get into games this week. So we've got a couple segments going on here. We're going to give out the lines. We're going to give out our analysis on the game. I think you have a pick for each game, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and I do as well. We'll see if we align. We'll see if we can form some consensus. And then we've got a little fun segment here where we're going to talk about all the NFL coaches. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about every NFL coach as what kind of blackjack player they would be and what kind of office coworker they would be. So if they worked in the office with you, what they would do throughout the day. And if they were at the blackjack table with you, what kind of player would they be? So let's start with our game in Buffalo, where the total is an astonishing 35.5. Buffalo is a 10-point favorite. They're down to 9.5 live. Pittsburgh sucks. Buffalo might suck. I don't know. I'm laying 9.5 with Buffalo. What about you?
I think Pittsburgh has kind of turned a corner, and Mike Tomlin's teams are always going to fight. And in the playoffs, 10 points is a lot. And I think the
Sure.
Bills going to Miami last week and winning a very emotional game and winning the AFC East in that situation probably took a lot out of them, knowing they were going to get Pittsburgh. Probably overthinking Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's offense has kind of turned the boat or turned the tides with Mason Rudolph at quarterback, trying to extend the field. They were non-existent with Kenny Pickett under center. Um, you never know, but I think 10's a lot. I think I'm leaning Pitt.
So 10 is a lot. It's 9.5 now. 9.5 is still a lot. What I think back to, though, is the last time Pittsburgh made the playoffs and they played a high seed, they played Kansas City in Arrowhead, and they were actually 12.5-point dogs in that scenario. And I should have looked up the exact score, but I didn't, but they lost by like 25. So I see that. Number two, I see Pittsburgh that is 2 long touchdowns to Deontay Johnson and George Pickens away from losing their last 2 weeks of the season, which I'm glad they didn't, because I had them hard over 8.5 wins and over 9 wins, and they cashed those both. And number 3, and most importantly, I see potentially the best bad weather quarterback in the league in Josh Allen. He is equipped to play in bad weather. He plays in Buffalo half the season, which is half the season of bad weather. He is the biggest MFer that's playing quarterback right now. He is the hardest runner to tackle on both of those teams. He is the best thrower of the football of potentially the whole league outside of Pat Mahomes. And in a game that has a 35.5-point total, I trust him to put up at least 21. I don't think Pittsburgh can get to 10. That's my analysis. In bad weather, I'm taking the better quarterback. I'm taking the better team. I'm taking a team that was, maybe a couple injury plays away last year from going to the Super Bowl against the team this year that's a couple of plays away from being 7-10.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's defense is actually going to show up, and we know Josh Allen is
no TJ Watt, though. That's pretty big.
It doesn't matter. I think Josh Allen's also prone to turning the ball over.
Of course.
And Pittsburgh thrives on turnovers and causing chaos.
Of course.
I think there's going to be a couple boneheaded turnovers that keep Pittsburgh in the game. It may not be competitive, but it might be like one of those last minute
the
garbage touchdown drives that pushes the over. I know a lot of people are going to be heavily betting the under with the weather forecast out there this weekend. So why not fade that and trust that Pitt accidentally gets it done?
That's the fear with this 10-point line, right? Is that Buffalo's up 16, the game is over, and Mason Rudolph is driving with a minute and a half left, and you're suddenly sweating this 10-point victory. When I guessed this game, I guessed that it was going to be Buffalo minus 12. So at 9.5, I feel like I'm getting significant value going through, the key number of 10, another half key number of 12, 13. I feel like I'm getting too much value. So I'm going Buffalo in this case. You're going Pittsburgh. I totally understand the logic. I'm going to go Buffalo. I'm probably going to go with actually, I probably won't bet a side because I hate betting unders, but I would not go over in this game because the weather is going to be no good. Coaches in this game, Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. Who's the better coach?
Tomlin.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin, right? That's not even a question. So I'm going against the better coach, which I don't like to do. But let's talk about those guys. So if they were at the blackjack table, all right, Sean McDermott, I feel, is a very, can I split those kind of guy? I feel like he half knows the rules. He half doesn't. He gets 7s and he's thinking, can I split them? He gets another 7. Can I split him again? He kind of knows what's going on. He's willing to take feedback. Doesn't totally get the whole picture, right? Like he's got Josh Allen, but he doesn't let him throw all the time. He doesn't let him run.
What's the book say?
Can I split 7s?
What's the book say?
What does the book say on that? Can I split 7s again? Whereas Mike Tomlin, I feel like is a little opposite. He shows up to the table and he sits down and he says immediately, he has the deal. He goes, what's the table minimum here? And he's just going to play that table minimum all night. And he's going to roll with it. And he's going to bet that $10 chip out there every time. And he's going to split when he's supposed to split, but he's not going to go crazy, right? Now, if you put those guys in an office setting, I think Sean McDermott is, you watch The Office, right?
Of course.
All right. So there's an episode of The Office where Andy Bernard becomes the office manager. And his first big task, he's gearing himself up all day, is to ask the CEO if they can get a 3-day weekend for Columbus Day, right? And And it's like such a non-significant item. They already have that Friday off, we learn later in the episode. So he's asking for nothing, but it's taken him all day to get the courage to do that. Sean McDermott is a very get a 3-day Andy Bernard weekend kind of guy. Gearing himself up for all these easy questions. He's like, oh, what kind of play can I run? Can I run Josh Allen quarterback sneak? And then Josh Allen just like does it anyway, right? I feel like that's very Sean McDermott. And Mike Tomlin, I think, is very work on Sunday, but doesn't send any emails. So he's logging on to his VPN, but he's not letting you know that he's on, right? He's doing all the work in the background, and he'll email you on Monday. He doesn't care if you know that he's online, but he's always online putting in the work. You agree?
I can see that. He's very quiet, and then all of a sudden the results just present themselves really
That's
quickly.
it. That's it. And I love Mike Tomlin, and he's going to stand this season for sure because they made the playoffs. I think he's going to stand. He'll probably finish his career in Pittsburgh. I don't know why they'd ever get rid of him, right? He's probably one of the best 4 or 5 coaches in the league.
He's always over 500.
Well,
Always.
sure. Yeah, and mostly over 10 wins. Even in 16-game seasons, he usually gets to 10, and they got to 10 this year.
Speaking of 10, that AFC North, I think this is the first time ever that all 4 teams finished above 500 in the season.
That's probably true, right? Because usually one of them's been a stinker. Cincinnati was a stinker for a long time. The Browns were a stinker for a long time.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought they were all going to make the playoffs at one point.
They would have probably if Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, probably. So why don't we skip over then to the other AFC North matchup here? We got the first game of the weekend, Cleveland at Houston. Houston is the rare home dog in the playoffs. We've actually got 2 of them this week. Houston was catching 2.5. They're down to +2 at this point. Cleveland is streaking. We've got the aging wonder Joe Flacco against the rookie wonder CJ Stroud. The +2.5 is basically a pick 'em. Who do you think is going to win? Whoever you think is going to win, take the points. I'm not going against Houston in this case. I'm taking Houston plus the 2.5. I think that CJ Stroud at home, I get it. He's a rookie. Rookies don't really win playoff games. It took a career game from Nico Collins last week for them to even beat the Colts, and maybe a lucky play where they threw to a backup running back on 4th down in the red zone for them to win. The Cleveland defense splits, though, has me perplexed. I love Cleveland. I love their defense. They're allowing 13 points a game at home. They're allowing 29 points a game on the road. I'm taking CJ Stroud to get to like 24, and I'm taking Joe Flacco. Maybe he gets to 25, but I don't think he gets to enough where they win by more than a field goal. That's all.
What's our over under here? 44.5.
44.5, and I will disclose that I've already taken the over.
I am going to agree with you there. That would be.
I love the over. I don't love the side here because I could totally see Joe Flacco coming out. They've built in to their offense the fact that he's going to throw 2 or 3 interceptions. Yeah. They said, that's fine. You throw those 2 picks. We're going to play good defense, and you're going to keep going deep, and we're going to score points. I could see Cleveland winning. If I got to pick a side, I'm picking Houston, but I love the over 44.5 even more. Yeah,
and I think Stroud's a dynamic enough quarterback where he's going to get pressure all game long from that front from Cleveland. If he extends the pocket and gets outside and gets it to the young wide receivers, could be a big day for point scoring and a big day for Houston.
Yeah, I agree. So I love the over in this case. I like Jerome Ford to score an anytime touchdown at +135. I think if they're going to score a lot of points, then the primary running back for the Browns is a good option to get in there, especially at plus odds.
He was a solid fantasy free agent pickup.
He was, yeah, when Nick Chubb went out.
Always right around double digits. And then he'd have one of those multi-touchdown games that gets him into the 20-30 range. He was a good pickup for sure. I had him on one team that didn't do well.
He was one of those league winners, like him and Kyron Williams. If you had him in the late rounds or in the free agency, they did really well for you.
Yep.
So it sounds like we both like the over. The side is really tough in this one. Look, man, it's a Saturday afternoon game. It's the first game of the playoffs. We're just going to be happy to be watching it. Why not bet the over, right? Why not root for points in this one? Let's have some fun. Let's formally recommend over 44.5. What do you say?
Under's no fun anyway. Root for points.
Yeah, unders are for losers. We're betting over 44.5 in this one. So 2 coaches here, Kevin Stefanski, coach of the Browns, DeMeco Ryans, coach of the Texans. This is a more interesting debate. The first question was clear. It was Tomlin. Who's the better coach in this case?
I don't know. I think Stefanski.
Yeah, that's
Just
where I lean
because
too.
D'Amico, you don't know if it's a flash in the pan thing. It's his first year. I mean, it's great what he did with that young team and getting him to the playoffs. Obviously, having two of the top three picks in the NFL draft helps. With Stroud and Will Anderson Jr., who was a
For
terror
sure.
on the defensive side of the ball. But Cleveland is a perennial town of losers, and Stefanski has shown that he can win there. With, I mean, he's got the aging wonder Joe Flacco at quarterback, and he is still winning games with him in Cleveland. So as of right now, I think it's too early to tell on Ryan. So I have to go with Stefanski just by track record.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Stefanski too. Look, man, he won 11 games with 4 quarterbacks. Like, that's incredible. And they paid Deshaun all that money, and he played well for 3 weeks, and then he played not well for 3 weeks, and then they lost him, and they still won 11 games, right? Not even over 500, 11 games. So I'm definitely going with Stefanski. So if Stefanski's with me at the blackjack table, I'm pinning him as the guy that has quietly pulled 6 straight 21s. He's opening with 13, 16, 12, and he's tapping the table a little bit, and he's pulling the exact card he needs. He gets 21. We see a little fist pump. Nobody else at the table even clocked it.
Or he's the guy where everybody else is struggling. He keeps flipping numbers and he just goes like this.
He's just quietly pulling those 21s. So he's having these shit openers, and he's pulling 21s off that. D'Amico Ryans, I'm going to label him side bet Sally. I feel like he's the kind of guy who's betting those side bets. He's betting $20 on the real hand. He's betting $20 on the side bet hand, and he's hitting that side bet once or twice, and that's making his whole night.
This guy's matching the dealer all night long.
This guy's matching. Long. He's got the lucky ladies going. He's got everything working on side bet Sally there. Now, look, if these guys were in the office with me, I'm saying D'Amico Ryans is the guy that comes in on Monday morning and he says, no matter what you're talking about, check out this article I found. And he's pulling up his phone. Maybe it's Facebook, maybe it's whatever, Wall Street Journal. He's got an article for it. Whatever you're talking about from the weekend, he's got a citation for it. Whereas Kevin Stefanski, I call him the buck stops here guy. You could, if you run into an issue in your office and you need to ask a question, you're asking like 6 different people, but when you go to Kevin Stefanski, he's the last guy you're asking because he's got the answer for you. That's what I think about him.
I agree. I think
he's got the right answer, and he's going to come
good analogies for
stops with him.
That's right.
That's right. All right. Let's move on to the other Saturday game. This shithole on Peacock. I cannot believe this is on Peacock. And I get Peacock because we steal it from my wife's parents. But we certainly don't pay for Peacock.
Oh, I'm one of those losers that pays for Peacock.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, good for you. I can't believe they're doing this. Why would they I know why they would do it, but it's for money. But like putting a playoff game on Peacock is absurd to me.
It's Miami like doing it on Amazon. It's like the same premise.
Well, and that's absurd to me too. I hate that. So Miami at Kansas City. Kansas City opened as 3.5-point favorites. They went up to 4. They've actually pushed through the 4, and they're 4.5-point favorites. Last I checked, I'll check if that updated. I'm taking Kansas City at literally any line. Give me 3.5. Give me 4.
It's 4.5 right now.
It's 4.5 on most books now. Give me Kansas City at 4.5. Look, I know they've had their struggles. I know their wide receivers are not existent. I know Travis Kelce is not the guy that he used to be, and he's old. Andy Reid is still a good coach. Pat Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the league. Travis Kelce is still like good. I wouldn't be surprised if he had 10 catches on Saturday. I cannot take Tua in a playoff game. He sucks. I can't do it.
Especially on the road too. And I don't think the weather's going to be great in Kansas City either.
The weather, they're saying it's going to feel like -30.
Wonderful. Tua's going to thrive in that environment.
Tua plays in Miami, where they've got that whole spiel going on where they put the visitor sideline in the sun, right?
Hawaii. He played at Alabama. He's currently playing in Miami. This guy doesn't get north of Atlanta.
Exactly. I cannot take the Dolphins in this spot. And look, I'm a little bit of a Dolphins hater. I was high on Tua coming out of the draft. I thought he was the best quarterback in that draft. He still may very well be one of, if not the best quarterback in that draft. He's fine. Tyreek Hill, should be in the MVP conversation. He is fantastic. What he does for that offense is incredible. The movement pre-snap, the way that they're designing throw, like Mike McDaniel's a genius. The way that they're designing throws where Tua intentionally underthrows him so that he's curling back with momentum to curl back up the field. Their offensive scheme is incredible. Okay. If this game was in Miami, I might be leaning a different way, but it's not. It's in Kansas City. Tua looked terrible last week. He's looked terrible for a month. They have beaten, again, one team over 500 this season, and Pat Mahomes is still on the field. Look, I got to sleep at night. If I'm going to sleep at night on Saturday, I'm going to sleep knowing that I bet on Patrick Mahomes, not Tua. That's it.
How many straight AFC championship appearances do the Chiefs have?
What are they in? 5 straight?
It's
Because
a
they've been
lot.
to what? 3
It's
Super Bowls.
it's half a decade's worth at least.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie. Take the Chiefs.
They've been to the 3 Super Bowls. They've
As
won
much
2
as
of them.
as much as I hate the Chiefs and how they finished down the stretch, you got to believe Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, they figure it out in crunch time. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think this has the potential to get to it. It should be a 7-point game at least.
I think this is one of those lines that opened too low. Again, it opened at 3.5. It's now up a full point to 4.5. Obviously, in Arrowhead, you're not going to go any lower than 3.5. You're not going to put them at a flat 3. So 3.5 was the lowest they could open it. That line was just wrong. Yeah. I think in this case, and again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If they win by 4 or whatever, I don't think there's a difference between 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. I think it's going to be a touchdown game at least. Maybe it's a 10-point game. I don't think this is in doubt at the end. I think the Chiefs pull this one out. If you're looking for some other bets to play, Tua's passing yardage was like 249.5 under, way under. Pat Mahomes' passing total was like 259.5 under, way under. Isaiah Pacheco, I'm going over. I'm seeing a lot of Pacheco in this game. His receiving prop was 3.5 grabs. I'm going over. That's plus money right now if you go over 3.5.
Give me
rushing
Pacheco
total
as
is in the 60s.
Give me Pacheco as an anytime touchdown too.
I don't know what the odds are on that, but I'm going to look it up. I'd take him anytime. His rushing totals in the 60s. I'm going over. A lot of Pacheco in this game. If you want to take Travis Kelce overs in this game, I'm not going to fault you for that either. If you want to take a little petty Mahomes anytime touchdown, I'm not going to fault you for that in this game either. I think there's an opportunity for him to run it in. I'm taking the Chiefs and I'm taking all these unders. That's my only take on this game. You got anything else to say? Nobody's going to watch it because it's on fucking Peacock.
No,
that's what I got to say.
No, we're going to get it. We're going to watch SportsCenter for those who even watch SportsCenter anymore. Check the highlights. Chiefs win by 7.
So we got Isaiah Pacheco anytime minus 120. I don't love that. That's a little too low. We got Pat Mahomes plus 390 anytime. That I'm into a little bit. Travis Kelce plus 105. You don't see him as at plus odds too often. So I'm probably leaning that way, but I love Pacheco props in this game. That's where I'm at.
Yep.
Coaching wise, interesting. Mike McDaniel versus Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid is, I know Andy Reid is the more established coach, right? More well-decorated coach. Who would you take right now, Andy Reid or Mike McDaniel? They're both pretty good.
Still like Andy Reid.
Yeah, I think
it's a trap. Mike McDaniel is the hot commodity. He is the trendy guy right now with how he's envisioning and how he's running his offense in Miami. And they are playing very well for him, but Andy Reid is still that guy.
He is still that guy. Despite his terrible Wendy's commercial where he talks about the nuggies, he's still that guy. I love him. So at the blackjack table, if we're sitting with Andy Reid, I think he's the guy that asks the drink girls, do you bring food to the table? Right? You know how the drink girls come around, you get free beers and stuff, you're sitting at the table. He's going to ask them for the meals. He's going to ask him for the, the side of fries, whatever. He wants a meal at the blackjack table. I could totally see that. Mike McDaniel, on the other hand, I think he's the guy that shares his chips with the drunk guy on third base. So third base is the last seat at the blackjack table. I think you got some guy who's drunk off his rocker over there. Mike McDaniel's the guy that throws him a 25 chip, says, hey, play this one for me, man. You're due. He just kind of, he's all over the place. He's good mojo for the table, I think, right? If they're in the office with me, I think Andy Reid is the guy. He takes Casual Friday too seriously. He comes in his Hawaiian shirts. He comes in his jeans. Maybe his sandals are coming in.
Probably shorts and sandals with
a
Andy.
little bit of shorts in the summer, right? Little shorts and sandals, maybe socks with those sandals. Mike McDaniel, totally the guy, has a word of the day calendar on his desk, but ironically. And he goes around using that word all day just because he knows it stirs the pot a little bit, right? I love it. All right, so that wraps up the Saturday games. Let's move on to the Sunday games. We're going to save the couple marquee games here. Green Bay at Dallas. Dallas was laying 7.5. They opened at 7. They went up to 7.5. Now, last I checked, they're back down to 7. You know where I'm leaning on this one. I'm taking Dallas. I think this is a comfortable Dallas win.
Wow.
I know the 7.5 can be a little enticing.
That hurts.
Dog. I know. Last time your Packers were a 7.5 point dog was Thanksgiving, and I pitched them to the group to cover that easily against the Lions, and that was never in doubt.
Not only did they cover, they won the game outright.
They won by a ton. They flipped the line. They covered 7.5 pretty easily. I'm taking Dallas at home. Dallas wins by an average margin of 18 points at home. They're undefeated at home. I got them going to the Super Bowl, so I'm certainly not going to bet against them going against the 6th seed. Did you know this is the first year? Look, I was born in 92. You were at the end of 91, but you're basically a 92 baby.
No, I'm definitely a 91 baby. Don't you?
Well, you got like
circle me into that 92.
You got like 40 days of 91 experience. All right. 45 days,
45 more days than you do.
That's fair. This is the first year since I was born in 92 that the Packers have started a non-Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers quarterback, which is pretty astounding considering 66 quarterbacks started a game this year. I'm not going to bet on Jordan Love in the playoffs, given all that, to even cover 7.
We don't know. We don't know what he's going to do. We
don't know.
He willed 2 divisional wins to close out the season, one on the road against the depleted Vikings, and then winning against the Bears, who were hot, they were trendy, and they showed up and stuck it to him. I think the defenses show up in this game. Stats say otherwise, but I think the under's definitely in play. It's the only way Green Bay is going to have a shot. I think Green Bay covers this. I don't want to say they win outright, but Dallas is going to be sweating this entire game, and I don't think the over is anywhere close to happening.
Really? So I think Dallas is up 7-0 in this game pretty early, and I think from that point on, it's probably over. So the over is down to 50.5, which is under a key number of 51. That's the second most key number that you can have outside of 41.5, or I'm sorry, 41. I wouldn't be surprised if this went under 50.5, but if it goes under 50.5, it's only because Green Bay doesn't score. I think Dallas is putting up 30, 35 points in this game. Their team total is 29, might even be 30 now at this point. I think they're flying over that. I think this is 14-0 before we blink. I'm biased because I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I think I think Green Bay is streaking a little too early, and they beat up on a Bears team who was really playing for nothing last week.
Bears were playing to knock them out of the playoffs. That's all they were trying to do.
But they're just not good enough. They're just not good enough to do that, right? So I don't take a lot of stock in that.
Yeah, I'm really considering taking Pack outright. Really considering it.
Well, their money line is plus 270, so it's a juicy payout if you like it.
Yes, it is. Could pay off a lot of trips at the casino, or one really big trip.
There's no way I'm coming off Dallas.
Or one really quick trip, depending on your kind of luck that night.
One hand, baby. There's no way I'm coming off Dallas in that spot, especially
you've got too much futures tied to this pick. I understand that, and I'm rooting for you, but my heart is full if Green Bay is the one that ends this.
Yeah, I mean, look, Green Bay is the playoff killer, right? And I bet on them a couple of years ago against the Niners when the Niners were the overwhelming.
No. The Niners are Green Bay's kryptonite in the playoffs. Green Bay is Dallas's kryptonite in the playoffs.
Well, that may be true. Except Dez caught it a couple of years ago, and then
apparently not. Where's Dez now? What do you think he's doing right now?
Do you know that was today? It was however many years ago today.
What do you think Dez is doing right now?
He's probably on Twitter right now. Isn't he an active X user?
That's Antonio Brown.
Well, maybe for another reaon. Yeah.
He's an interesting follow too.
Interesting to say the least. Des was on First Take a couple weeks ago or something. I don't
Watch
know,
it.
but yeah, I don't know. I'm taking Dallas here. I think they're the better team. I'm going to take them. Matt LaFleur, Mike McCarthy, who's a better coach?
Toss up.
Toss up. See, I think Matt LaFleur is a better coach. It's hard to judge because he had Aaron Rodgers for so long and Rodgers was good for him. By the way,
so did McCarthy. McCarthy won a Super Bowl with Rodgers.
Oh, that's true. You're right. So they both had Aaron Rodgers for a little while. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think this is a bit of a toss up. If you give me a late game,
this in my opinion is LaFleur's best coaching job, just because there were so many uncertainties. There's so much youth at the skill positions, and somehow they still ended up making the playoffs with a first-year starting quarterback and all of their wide receivers. They're the youngest team in the league. I think I think Green Bay is the youngest team in the league across the board. The youth, I think, is gonna the young wide receivers have stepped up.
I agree.
Not Christian Watson. That was his rookie year.
Yeah.
Dudes, Jalen Reed, the tight ends.
Yeah, I agree. It might be his best coaching job. I think he's a good coach. I think in late in games, they both have the opportunity to screw it up for their team.
Oh,
McCarthy is famously not good in late game situations.
Correct. He's got the Andy Reid time management gene in him.
LaFleur is like under the radar, not good in late game situations, right? Like I think back to that game that they played the Bucks when Brady won the Super Bowl.
I don't want to talk about that game. No,
I know you don't want to talk about
that game. Didn't happen.
That game was no good. But I think of just little situations like that. I think LaFleur is a really good coach, but he has these situations, right? So if we're playing blackjack with these guys, I like this one. I think Matt LaFleur is a guy that comes to the tables and you're walking around with your buddies and he says, I said no auto shuffler. He's one of those guys that only plays the shoe, which look, I am too. I love the shoe. But if six of my buddies are playing down, trying to have a good time and play an auto shuffler, that's fine. I think he is so set in his ways, he just will never play an auto shuffler. I think he's set in his coaching ways. He will never do what he doesn't want to do, even if it might be the better outcome, right? Whereas Mike McCarthy, do you know what the martingale is? You heard of that strategy?
Yes, I believe so. But refresh our listeners for us.
So the martingale strategy is a strategy where you bet $1 and you lose. So you bet 2, you lose, you bet 4, you lose, you bet 8. You just keep doubling. And eventually you got to win and you got to break even, right?
Or you don't.
It only takes once to not. I think Mike McCarthy is the guy who shows up who just learned about the martingale. And he bets 25 and bets 50. And we say, what the hell are you doing? He goes, no. I got a strategy. Don't worry. And I think he just learned about that and he's trying to utilize it. And one time it won't work. If these guys work in the office with us, Mike McCarthy is the kind of guy who forwards emails with no context or see below. And that's it. Right. Like you're going to have to scroll down like 6 emails to see what he wants you to do.
FYI. Thank you.
FYI per below. Matt LaFleur is the kind of guy, he types questions with a period instead of a question mark in his emails. I think he's asking you to do stuff and he puts a period in there. And I'm like, what the fuck are you putting a period in there for? Right. But it's just the kind of guy he is. All right. So I'm taking Dallas. You're taking Green Bay. I have a feeling that's more of a bet with your heart kind of situation, although mine is too, because
completely went against what I just discussed earlier in the episode where do not bet with your heart. This is a passion pick. I am fully invested in this team now. Did not expect them to make the playoffs. But I'm not the kind of person that's going to think like everything else is gravy. But like my mindset is they're not expecting to win, so that there should be no pressure going out there. All the pressure's on Dallas. They have to perform. This is their best team in years. And it would do me wonders for Green Bay to be the team to knock Dallas out of the playoffs. I know it would be terrible for you with all the money invested on Dallas, but we won't be talking for a good 3.5 hours on Sunday afternoon, I believe, until that game.
Yeah, that's the Sunday night game, isn't it?
No, it's the 4:00 game, I believe.
Oh, is the Rams the Sunday night game?
Okay. Detroit's the Sunday night game. which
So let's go to that one next.
I think this game is going to be the game of the weekend.
Let's go to probably the most fun game of the weekend. Rams at Detroit. You got McVay against the quarterback he traded away in Jared Goff. You got Stafford coming back to Detroit in Detroit. I think there was a thing earlier this week where Detroit was trying to ban Matt Stafford jerseys from coming to the arena. Screw that. Matt Stafford's the best thing that ever happened to that fucking sorry excuse for a team. He was fantastic in Detroit. He is a wide receiver maker. He made Calvin Johnson. He made Cooper Kupp. He did. All right. Wherever this guy goes, receivers have all-time seasons. Okay. He has now thrown to the guys with the 2 most receiving yards in a season ever in Cooper Kupp and Matt Calvin Johnson. Look, the line is 3.5. It opened at 3.5, Detroit. It went down to 3. I don't know where it is now.
I'll tell you where it is right now.
I'm taking the Lions.
It's -3.
It's -3, and I'm taking the Lions. I'm going to be the total buzzkill in this situation, right? Because all of me wants to take the Rams. I love Matt Stafford. I love Sean McVay. I think he's a genius. I love Cooper Kupp. He's the best wideout in the league. Maybe sans, JJ and Ty Hill.
Probably since Calvin Johnson.
Probably, right? I love their defense. They have an absolute troublemaker on defense. I think that anybody that can challenge the Niners, it's the Rams. But it troubles me, Burke. It troubles me that it all just makes so much sense. And yet the line has gone down, right? Too many people are betting the Rams. And that worries me as somebody who studies these lines and thinks that this line should be much higher than 3.5. And it's actually gone down to 3. And I'm so worried that I'm taking the Lions.
Yeah, I honestly think the roof off of Ford Field is going to explode on Sunday night.
They haven't made the playoffs in how long? They haven't won the division in like 18 years?
It's not. They haven't made the playoffs in about 6 years, but they haven't hosted a playoff game in about 30.
Right.
I think 92, the magical year that you were born, I was lucky enough to be a couple months ahead of that, was the last time that Detroit hosted a playoff game. Barry Sanders.
1994.
94, excuse me. Maybe 92 was the last time they won, or 91.
I don't know. Last Lions home playoff game, January 8th, 94.
Anyway, if you don't think Dan Campbell has that motivational speech ready to go to get those guys jacked up and ready, I think Detroit is going to roll the Rams. Storylines galore in this game. This is Detroit's time. They get it done with the young guys. I think Laporte is going to play.
Yeah, I think so.
I know he got hurt. He left the game last week. Gibbs is great.
Yeah.
Defense is solid.
Yeah.
And you got a quarterback who can manage a game. He's had playoff experience before. He's been to a Super Bowl before. This environment's not going to awe him. He's been in those big situations before. Detroit's been waiting for this for 30 years, and they're gonna reap the benefits of Sunday night, in my opinion. And so are we.
Yeah, this game really troubles me, man, because I want to take the Rams so bad. And obviously we have a storied history with the Rams and Matt Stafford and Sean McVay.
That was 3 years ago.
But it's 3 years ago. Stafford's older. That shoulder ain't getting any better. The Lions look really good. And look, my only hesitation in this spot is that Sean McVay is an absolute genius, and Dan Campbell is a total fucking moron. Okay. That's unpopular to say, because I think the consensus around the league, especially after Hard Knocks, and look, I've had like 6 of these, so I'm sorry that I'm cursing on air here. The consensus is that Dan Campbell is a good coach. I could not disagree more. I watched that man go for a 2-point conversion from the 7-yard line to win a game in Dallas that apparently decided who's the 2 seed and who gets to host another playoff game. From the 7-yard line. If that guy's going to make decisions like that, I don't want to be betting on him, right? But laying 3 at home and they're the better team, I'm going to do it.
If that thing ever gets down to 2.5,
It never will. I assure you, I guarantee you it'll never go down to 2.5, because if it did, it would get slammed.
I know.
I think if anything, we see 4 by kickoff. So if we want the 3, let's log off after this and take
It might be 3.5 by kickoff.
It's definitely going to be 3.5 by kickoff. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 4. So hey, if you like the Lions, take it now. I'm also taking Cooper Kupp over 6.5 receptions. That's high based on him being hurt and what he's done this season and the emergence of Puka Nacua. But 6.5 for Cooper Kupp, that dude could grab 12 balls. He could have 6 in the first quarter, right? So I'm going over 6.5. His yardage is only in the 60s. So I'm definitely going over on Cooper Kupp props. That game total, last I checked, was 54.5. It's super, super high. So
yeah, that's high. It is 51.5 currently.
50, maybe it's 51.5. I'm sorry. But it's super high. I'm taking Cooper Kupp overs. Sean McVay or Dan Campbell, better coach. You know where I land based on my rant.
It's McVay.
It's got to be McVay. He's probably the best in the league. McVay at the casino is the guy that disappears to play craps. We're sitting at the blackjack table, and suddenly we look up. Where's Sean? Where'd he go? He's over at the craps table because it's got better odds, right? That's the kind of guy Sean McVay is. Dan Campbell is the kind of guy who's sitting at the table and he's getting 8s and he's doubling down on 8. You're not ever supposed to double down on 8, but that guy is rolling the dice and pushing. You got 8 against the 7, and he's doubling down.
Or he's hitting on 17 or staying on 9 or something ridiculous.
He's doubling on ace 9. And if these guys are in the office with us, I think that Sean McVay is obviously the Excel guy. If you have a question on Excel and how to use the formulas, Sean McVay knows the answer. Everybody points you to him. I think Dan Campbell is the guy who loudly uses the F word in the break room. And every day you hear him saying, F this, F that, or this effing weekend. I think he's all about that.
Or he's the guy who his lunch gets stolen and he comes out screaming, "Who stole my lunch?"
Yeah, he's calling a company meeting or sending out an email saying, "My lunch had my name on it." Yeah, that's the kind of guy Dan Campbell is. All right, so that's the Sunday night game. Let's move to the final contest of the week.
Should we just skip over this game for you sure? We just want to cut it off here, let our Eagles fans cry a little bit.
Hey man, I find this to be the most boring game of the week. Eagles at Tampa Bay. Neither team's any good. Tampa, I think, is now catching 3 at home. It opened at 2.5. Now it's Tampa Bay +3. I've gone back and forth on this game because I want to take the home dog. I want to take Tampa +3 out of principle, just like I take Houston +2.5. Tampa's been okay. The Eagles secondary is awful. I think Baker could go well over 300 yards, maybe 2 or 3 scores in this game. Baker's been pretty good for this season. He's going to be a contender.
And the receivers for Tampa are legit.
I mean, look, they're not bad. That was one of my biggest L's of the season is I had the Bucs under 6.5 wins and I paid, it was like -140 to do it. I thought there was no way they're getting a 7. I thought they'd get like 4. And they well surpassed. It was never in question, right? They got to 8 or 9 wins. I want to take Tampa, but I'm taking the Eagles. The Eagles have been so bad. They have not been able to score. Their weapons are hurt. Jalen Hurts is legitimately hurt. He's been legitimately hurt for about a month and a half. AJ Brown might not play. Devontae Smith will probably play, but he's hurt. They're getting flagged for these little penalties on that tush push now that have always been penalties, but they're like finally calling them. They have a bad secondary. That being said, the Eagles sucking the second half of the season was incredibly obvious. And me and one of our friends, me and Nate, had this huge discussion about when do we fade the Eagles win total? Because you look at the schedule and they were 10-1 and we're saying, all right, they're going to lose the next 7. They're going to finish like 1-4. It was just so obvious. So I'm writing these last couple of weeks off, not to say that they're going to win the Super Bowl. I think they're going to lose next week, but I think they're going to beat Tampa Bay.
And there's teams that they can struggle down the stretch, but they're just that talented that they can kind of flip a switch when they need to. I think there is a lot of stress in Philadelphia with all those ridiculous Eagles fans. They're already writing them off. They want Sirianni out of there. I I don't get it. They were just in the Super Bowl a year ago with basically everybody returning, and you were that close to winning a Super Bowl. Just you can't hold guys. I know people are going to say it wasn't a hold; it was a fucking hold.
We had a great group chat going that night.
It was a hold. Let's be that loud.
Certainly a hold.
But I think these guys understand that it's Super Bowl or bust at this point with this roster, and they're going to flip a switch in the playoffs. I think they win this game comfortably. I know all these fans are probably going to be ripping me apart, but I think the Eagles take care of business and win this game by at least a tutty.
Yeah, and I think so too. And look, let's tell it how it is. The Eagles fans are terrible. Okay. In the city, outside of the city, they're unbearable. And
The Bucks put up 9 points last week against the Panthers. 9.
Exactly what I was going to say. Look, the Bucks almost lost to the Panthers. If DJ Moore doesn't fumble out of the end zone on the first possession of that game, I think the Panthers win that game.
Not DJ Moore, but he's no longer on the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forget who it was. One of the Panthers receivers, whoever it is. I can't even remember because he was reaching for the end zone and he fumbles out of the end of the end zone. Okay. No, it is DJ Moore.
Oh no, it was Chark, DJ Chark.
DJ Chark. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Wrong DJ.
Chark. Close
DJ.
enough. He reaches out of the end zone. He's going for a touchdown. He doesn't get it. And the Bucks get the ball back and they win what 9-0?
9-0.
Yeah, they didn't score a touchdown.
Nope.
They could have lost to the Panthers.
Yep.
I'm not saying the Eagles are good. I'm not saying the Bucks are good. I think both teams are middle at this point.
Let's remember the NFC South has been shit all year. Shit.
The NFC South is terrible. The Eagles have also been terrible. Okay. I'm just taking the better team, laying 2.5. If you want to buy the 2, whatever, you're going to pay a little bit for it, or it's 3 now, right? So I'm just taking them at 3. And it's an emotional hedge. If the Bucks win, I'm going to be super happy because the Eagles are gone. And if the Eagles win, I'll be all right because we'll make a couple bucks. All right.
Yep.
And that's what it is.
That's a win.
Sirianni or Bowles, better coach?
Oh, that's another toss-up. There's not much.
This is a big toss-up to me because I don't think Sirianni is a great coach, and I think Bowles is a decent coach, but Sirianni has a better resume. So this is a bit of a toss-up.
I think anybody could have coached that Eagles team last year to the Super Bowl. Sirianni just happened to be the guy.
Yeah, they were super talented last year. Yeah. So blackjack table, Todd Bowles. I think he is the guy that wears the suit to the casino. And, maybe he's overdressed or maybe he's perfectly dressed, but he's wearing the suit, takes the coat off, puts it on that chair. You know what I mean? Unbuttons the tie or takes the tie down the top button after a while, but he's definitely wearing a suit. Nick Sirianni is the kind of guy. So me and our other buddy, Gleason, we played at a casino in Washington, D.C. last year. And we sat next to this kid, cool kid. He's talking to us all night, but he had like a really annoying voice. And every time, like, let's say I had a 14, all right, he's cheering for you. And he goes, oh, let's get a 7 for you, buddy. And then a 10 would come out. And every time he said the same thing. He goes, hey, it's a funny looking 7, man. And I'm like, all right, I get it. Like I busted, like, shut the fuck up. And that's Nick Sirianni. That's a funny looking 7 kind of guy. Cause he's just like talking to everybody at the table through all the night, talking about all the stuff that's going on, all the cars that are coming out. He's counting his hand out loud, whatever. If you take these guys into the office, I think Nick Sirianni is the kind of guy. There's a bar that we used to go to in Scranton called Mulligan's. You remember that?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, a little bit of a bar in the downtown city that we live in. Okay. Nick Sirianni is the guy that goes to Mulligan's on a Tuesday. And he comes in on Wednesday morning talking about how hot Mulligan's was on a Tuesday night. That's Nick Sirianni. And then he goes back Wednesday night, right? Todd Bowles is the guy that wears a suit to the office. He wears a suit to the blackjack table. He wears the same suit to the office. He goes to bed in the suit. He wakes up in the suit. I think he's always in a suit.
I agree. I think, Jesus, Mulligan's, what a time that was. Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's exactly where Nick Sirianni would be if he lived in Scranton. But he'd be there on a Monday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday. Hey, so that's our bets for the weekend. To recap, we're split on Buffalo. I'm on Buffalo -10. Burke's taking Pittsburgh. I think we're both on Kansas City, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm on Houston. Did you give a pick for that game?
I believe I'm riding Houston as well.
All right, so we're both on Houston. We're both on the Eagles.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I'm on Dallas. You're on Green Bay.
Yep.
And I think we're both hesitantly on Detroit as well.
Yes.
So we align on most of this stuff. Let us know throughout the week on the Twitter if you want to pitch any of your picks. We'll be tweeting out some more prop picks and stuff like that, I'm sure, throughout the
Also,
week.
any questions you have, we'll happily respond and give you our input. If it's
hey, let's talk it out because
good.
look, every week after this week, we lose a game. All right.
I mean,
this is
our goal is to win money, and we want you to win with us.
correct. Exactly. We want to win some money for everybody. So we'll track this stuff. We'll tell you about all this stuff and we'll make some money.
Right.
Last segment for today. Now that we got through all the playoff games, I thought this would be fun. We have had so many players throughout this NFL season. Okay. So many random guys, 66 quarterbacks started. So we're going to do this weekly segment where we're going to play NFL player or TV character. And Burke does not know about this. I did not put this in the agenda.
Wonderful.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to name you a bunch of people and you're going to tell me this week, we're going to use a different show every week. And you're going to tell me if they play in the NFL or if they're on this show, a character on the show. All right. This week we're doing the show Mad Men because you haven't really watched Mad Men. So you don't know a lot of the characters.
Never watched it.
Perfect. Beautiful. So you tell me, I'm going to read you a name and we're going to do, I got like 8 or 9 names. You tell me if you think they're an NFL player or a Mad Men character. You ready?
Let's go.
All right. Eric Gray.
NFL player.
He is an NFL player. Do you guessing or you know that?
That's a complete guess.
He is a running back for the New York Giants. He had 14 carries this season for 29 yards and started 1 game. All right, good. You're 1 for 1. Andrew Farmer.
Also an NFL guy.
He is an NFL guy. Wow, Burke, you're good at this. He plays for the Chargers. He's an edge rusher. He had 1 tackle this year and played in 8 games. All right, you're 2 for 2.
Real difference maker.
Kalen Granson.
That's got to be a Mad Men guy.
He is an NFL player. He's a tight end for the Colts. He actually had 400 yards this year on 30 catches. Kalen Granson.
Wow. Productive.
Yeah. All right. Duck Phillips.
Mad Men.
I was hoping you'd go NFL in that case with a name like Duck, but he is on Mad Men, Duck Phillips. All right, we're going 2 more. Paul Kinsey.
Mad Men.
Yeah, that's a Mad Men guy. He's one of the main characters on Mad Men. All right, 1 more. I'm going to try to mix this one up a little bit. Let's see. Chris Rodriguez.
NFL.
What team?
Seems like he would be a Raider.
No, what position? Chris Rodriguez.
Was he a Raider?
No, he's on Washington.
Long snapper.
Chris Rodriguez is a running back for Washington. He had 51 carries and 247 yards this year. So you did all right with that. I think we should do that every week. I'm going to pick some characters off some random TV show and see if you could figure out if they're NFL players or not. And I'm going to use like prominent NFL players. But that was fun. Hey, buddy, it was good to be back. We made some picks. We had some fun. Hopefully we win some money for the people this week. Anything you want to plug? Any parting words for you?
Yeah, it was great to get the dust off the mic here and get back talking sports with you. It's been way too long, and hopefully the next time it'll be a significantly shorter duration between episodes. But Vegas is definitely dangling some carrots at us, and we're gonna hop on these bets and win a lot of money this week.
That's the spirit, buddy. Hey, we're going to try to get this going next week if we can. We'll try to go every week, every other week throughout the playoffs. We'll definitely get another 1 or 2 in before the Super Bowl for sure, especially if our Cowboys keep winning. How about them Cowboys, baby? So, hey, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Follow us on Twitter. We'll be posting pics throughout the week. Love to interact with everybody. And until next time, let's go make some money, friends.
Let's do it.